because you are Guyanese clearly, and I know you're working at UE here in Jamaica, but you have written also on Guyana. So I would be remiss if I don't sort of make mention of your own work: decentralization, ethnic factionalization, and the resource curse, the case of Guyana. And I see it's a work in progress, so it's not complete. But to the extent you can give us a little insight or preview about what we're to anticipate here, please.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, people. And then on the other hand, I'm not so happy.
Right.
So I wrote that article upon the request of a colleague, Dr. Dwayne Edwards, out of Kayville.
Okay. Also Guyanese?
He's also Guyanese,
Awesome.
so maybe you might want to visit Barbados. And I can create a link there.
All right,
Yes.
all right.
So as you know, everyone in the region is looking towards Guyana, and I know there's a lot of excitement because, for example, the people in Trinidad are excited about what is happening in Guyana with the oil and gas industry and so on. So it's clearly a big deal.
Yes.
But the question always arises that, okay, how will this thing affect Guyana? How much
Guyanese.
will Guyana and Guyanese benefit from these massive resources? And the question is obviously a good one, because Guyana has a lot of resources already. When you talk about the land that we have, you know, the different minerals we have. You talk about fresh water, you name it, Guyana has everything.
An abundance of natural
But
resources.
yet, we are not progressing as we should, and the economic literature speaks about this. Countries well endowed with resources, developing countries not living up to their potential. You see?
For various reasons.
Yes. So the article I wrote was to underscore, if you want to put it this way, the channel through which Guyana remains underdeveloped and not meeting its true potential, and then to suggest a way, and I'm not saying the way, because what I think needs to happen is that you need a multiplicity of approaches to mitigate if you want to say, the effects of the resource first, the negative effects of it. You see, and so not to go into too much detail because it will take up probably a few days to get into it. But in my view,
detail rich.
In my view, the thing which has worked against Guyana achieving its true potential has to do with our ethnic fractionalization, the division, the deep divisions in our society. You see? And so anything you can do to remedy that situation, is going to benefit the country.
And are we going to have to wait for the paper to understand what some of those factors are?
When you say...
Are we going to have to wait for the paper to hear what some of the ethnic factionalization, some of what contributes to that, and how you analyze these phenomena in the paper?
Well, the approach I took was sort of a historical one. You know, you go back and you look at different administrations, you look at what they would have done, and when I say administrations, on both sides, PNC, PPP would have all done things to undermine
development,
social cohesion.
Understood.
You see, like I said, there's so many stories one can get into. And one of the things I did, one of the things I mentioned, and just to give you some context, as a child, I learned about the Sun Chapman bombing.
Okay.
I'm not sure if when you learned of it. It was only years after that I learned about the Wisma massacre. And the reason why I mentioned those two things, I'm coming from a home, African descent, and I hear about the Sun Chapman bombing. If you go to homes where you have Guyanese of Indian descent, I am willing to bet there's a lot more discussion about the Wisma massacre. You see?
I see.
Both of these things, you know, in the terrible 60s, those dark days, contributed to the
Broader,
ethnic strife,
yes,
right?
yes,
Between and the suspicions and all of those
and
things.
it perpetuates now.
And it continues, you see. And so anyone who doesn't recognize that something has got to be done to deal with those things has their head buried in the sand.